please take a seat over here to the right. So our Secretary Lucy has mentioned to us that you're a law student at the University of Queensland.
Yes.
It's fantastic. Michael and I both attended University of Queensland studying law. How are you finding it?
It's a little bit difficult. But
Yeah, no, we understand. We've both been there. Yeah, it's some of the best times, but some of the worst at the same time. It can be very stressful at times. But yeah, it's a lovely campus, so I hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous campus. Fun times, although not gonna lie, glad to be past it as well. What year were you?
I'm currently in my 4th year of my law and arts degree.
Okay, cool. So it's a 5.5 year degree, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
It's actually funny you mentioned that because we both did law and arts degrees as well.
It's a
So,
very popular degree.
Yeah, it's a good one. So we might get into it. And would you prefer Miss Robertson or Jessie? Jessie, right, cool. So Jessie, please feel free to call me Michael, and Nick, that's what we call each other. And before we get into why we're here today, just a good idea to go over a few preliminaries for you. So as Lucy would have mentioned to you on the phone, I imagine, this first consultation is going to go for 30 minutes. And just so you're aware, there's no legal obligations between you or us at this point in time. So it's also absolutely cost-free, so you don't have to worry about that.
So basically the purpose of this first interview is so that we can get an understanding of the sort of issues you've been having. Obviously we've been told that you might be facing some issues or allegations regarding academic misconduct. And basically so we can formulate a plan moving forward from here. Also at this stage, I'd just like to stress that everything that we talk about today in this interview is strictly confidential. So that means that Michael and I aren't going to be talking about any of your sort of problems or issues with anyone else in this firm unless you give us the express permission to do so.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we're going to be able to help you out, Jessie, but should you have any issues regarding the quality of our service or just any concerns about our firm or anything we talk about in general, then please feel free after this consultation to just get in contact with us, and I'm really sure that we're going to be able to help you out with any issues you might be having. But if you did want someone else's opinion, you can go to the Legal Services Commission. And all they do is they investigate any concerns you might have about solicitors. So if you just want to take that form, that just tells you how you can actually contact them.
Yeah.
So look at that at your own leisure later.
So basically, Jessie, would you mind just starting by telling us sort of everything you know and everything about these allegations regarding academic misconduct? Basically, Michael and I, we do stress that everything you know is important to us. Something that might seem insignificant to you might, in fact, be very important in legal terms. So we would just like to stress that, basically we want to get everything out of you today. And just on a final note, before we get into things, we'd like to stress again that everything is confidential.
So probably it's best to start off, Jessie, if you just tell us, so have you been charged with academic misconduct, or has there been a decision made, or what's going on at the moment?
Yes, I've been found guilty of academic misconduct.
Okay. Now, would you just be able to tell us about the circumstances surrounding that? So what I mean by that is, for instance, what was the academic misconduct or the actual facts that you were found guilty on?
So I was found guilty of cheating on my property exam.
Okay.
And when you say you were found guilty of cheating, what exactly were the allegations made against you? Were you on your phone, or did you take in notes that you shouldn't have?
I brought notes with me into what was a closed book exam.
Right.
And the vigilator found those notes in me afterwards.
Yep.
And referring to the lawsuit.
Okay, great. And when did this happen?
This was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Okay, cool. So the actual act of cheating happened, was it a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago?
Not entirely sure, but it was quite recent.
Quite recently? And would you be able to tell us, have you received a written statement of these allegations or anything like that?
I did receive, yeah.
Yeah, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you have had a hearing to find that you were guilty of academic misconduct, that's correct?
Yes.
Okay. And who actually, do you remember, was conducting that hearing?
So that was Professor Aidan Griffith, who was the Deputy Dean of the Bell Faculty.
Okay, so the Deputy Dean of the Bell Faculty?
Yes, that's correct.
And So the Deputy Dean. Now, do you have any, did you know this Deputy Dean at all in any sort of way or personally?
No, not personally.
No?
Okay.
So
I felt like he and the law school was plotting against me, and they just didn't like me too much.
Okay.
Mm.
So really quickly, so just one last time, what was the Deputy Dean's name?
Professor Aidan Griffin.
Professor Griffith?
Griffin.
Griffin. Okay, great. And why did you feel like they were plotting against you?
I
Or
don't know, it's just a feeling. I think they're
Did anything sort of spark that feeling that they were plotting against you?
It was just a feeling. I think they thought I was responsible for the accident.
And would you consider yourself, like how do you feel about the charges that have been levelled against you in terms of this academic misconduct? Do you feel like, do you accept that, you probably shouldn't have brought those notes in the closed book exam, or was it something a lot of students were doing?
No, it's not something a lot of students were doing. I was just really concerned and stressed out before the exam.
Yep.
Yeah.
So would you say that, Jesse, that the sort of your intention was there? I mean, it wasn't an accident. You didn't accidentally take the notes in. You did intend to take them in and use them for the purposes of gaining advantage in the exam.
And do you know what the level of misconduct was that you've been charged with?
No, I'm not sure of the details.
You're not sure of the details? Okay. So that's okay if you're not sure. Completely understand that details like that can slip your mind. We'll come back to that later, but it would be good if we can get, because you would have been given, I'm sure, a written statement of things that include the level of misconduct that you were charged with, and that would be really useful for us to have a look at in order to determine what kind of appeal rights you might have or anything like that. So Professor Griffin, so you didn't have any sort of personal, he doesn't lecture Prop A or anything like that?
No.
Have you ever had a tutorial with Professor Griffin or anything? No? Okay. And what were the penalties that you received as well?
My course credit for property was cancelled.
Okay. So the course credit was cancelled.
We might deal with this later, Jason, we're giving you legal advice, but just from the sounds of things, it might have been a level 3 allegation made against you, because I'm fairly certain, Michael and I have to check on this, but you can only cancel your accreditation for a course if a level 3 allegation has been made against you.
Yep.
And that is unfortunately the most severe level of allegation.
So I think, because I've just had a look at the UQ student integrity policy, and it looks like it could be either a level 2 academic misconduct, and also for level 3 they can charge a level 2 penalty if they prefer. So it'll sound like it's either going to be level 2 or level 3 academic misconduct. And you say the actual decision happened two weeks ago or so?
Yeah.
So it would have been less than 20 business days?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah? Okay. And would you say that you feel like that's a fair charge? Do you think it's unreasonable?
I did bring the notes in, but I felt like because I was referred initially to what was his name? Craig Williamson, the academic integrity officer at the law school.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like he had the opportunity to counsel me instead of referring me on. I think the only reason he didn't was because he didn't like me. Had something against me personally.
And what made you feel like he had something against you personally?
It was just the tone of his email, so really dark.
Really?
I think he had something against me personally, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any? Do you know of any relation you have with Craig Williamson, or maybe your family or some of your close friends might have with him that would make him look at you in this way?
No, I don't know why he would do it.
So you're not aware of any sort of conflict of interest that he might have? Does he have a son or daughter in the course, or?
None that I'm aware of.
So the thing about being refused counselling is they do, like the academic integrity officer, they do have the discretion to refuse counselling and just go straight to a charge of academic misconduct. But certainly something that we can look into is whether that discretion has not been used according to procedural fairness or something like that, because obviously that's something that we're going to look into. Would you be able to tell me anything about the emails he was sending? Any language used or anything?
Specifically what he said, just It's just the impression that I got from the tone of the email.
Yeah. Did it make you feel uncomfortable or something like that?
I would say so, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that might definitely be something we'd be interested in looking at, is getting like a copy of those emails. That would be great. And just one last sort of question about, so there's no specific incidents in those emails, like language use or anything like that, that made you particularly feel like he was treating you unfairly?
I can't remember anything specific. It was just more the tone.
Yeah, more of the tone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And might I just ask, Jessie, so at the moment we're talking about you being accused of cheating in your property exam. Were there any incidents sort of prior to this allegation that might make them act like that? Like, have you previously been charged for any forms of academic misconduct?
No, not previously.
Okay, and is this the only charge of academic misconduct that's been levelled against you?
Yes.
Okay.
And have you received any general misconduct charges? No. No? Okay, so this is the first instance of academic misconduct. Okay, would you be able to tell us what was the nature of the notes that you had taken to the exam with you? Do you remember what kind of notes had you taken in? Were they very in-depth, or was it like just a one page with a few dot points or something like that?
It was, I can't remember specifically, but I think it was just a A4 piece of sheet with notes on either side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's useful. Thank you for that. So you've had no previous academic misconduct charges. Now, you do have the right as a student to appeal a decision if you've been charged with academic misconduct. And if you are correct in saying that you've been charged 20 days ago, then that is definitely something we can look into in terms of the grounds for appeal that you may have. Would you be interested in appealing this decision? Is that something that you want to do?
I just wanted to know what the impact will be on my admission into the legal profession.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, there are a few sort of avenues you can go down, Jessie. Obviously, we'll deal with that more later in the interview, but just so you're aware now, if you feel like you've been hard done by, then we can lodge an appeal because it's within that 20 business days. But if not, we also have advice for you if you're just concerned about how that will impact your admission into the legal profession. But as I said, we'll deal with that.
Yeah. Okay, so first charge of academic misconduct you ever had, you haven't had any general misconduct charges before, and you've mentioned that what you're primarily concerned about is how this is going to affect your admission into the legal profession, is that right? So you're interested in being like a solicitor or a barrister or something like that once you've graduated? Okay, great. Now, essentially, the way the process works, if you're interested in knowing, is you make an application and be admitted to the legal profession, and then there is a board that I can't remember the specific name of the board, but in conjunction with the Queensland Supreme Court, they essentially decide whether or not you are like a fit person to be admitted. And recently the Queensland Court of Appeal and Queensland Supreme Court have made it clear that academic misconduct is something that they expect to be disclosed. And that's something else. I mean, there's a number of categories of areas where they expect you to disclose if you fall into one of these categories. Another thing is criminal offences, infringement notices, like traffic offences, things like that. Have you got any? And we're sort of like getting off the academic misconduct at this point, but I'm just interested in thinking if there's anything else you might need to potentially disclose in an admission. Have you ever been charged with any criminal offences or anything like that?
Yeah.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. It would be really useful for us, so we understand this might be like a little bit uncomfortable to talk about or something, Jessie, but it would be really useful for us if you could just give us a little detail about the criminal offences that you may have been charged with.
So actually about 2 months ago, the driver of the vehicle was involved in the vehicle accident. My mum was in the car with me at the time. She's since passed away because of the accident.
Oh, we're really sorry, Jessie.
Yeah, we're really sorry to hear that, Jessie.
I was sent to notice of driving dangerously, causing.
Thank you for explaining that to us, Jesse. I understand that's really unfortunate. We're very sorry for your loss. Now, if you don't mind, is that the only offence that you've received? Okay.
Do you, if you don't mind me asking, Jesse, it's not too much of a sensitive topic. Who else was involved in the accident? Was there another car?
I can't remember the specific details.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the specific details of the accident.
Okay. So, would you remember, for instance, and even if you can't remember the actual accident, I completely understand, but in the report that you would have sort of received, or when you were, you received the offence for driving dangerously, were you driving under the influence or anything like that, or?
I had gone drinking the night before, but this was the next evening.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yes, I'm not sure if I blew 0.0.
Yep. And what sort of license do you have?
I'm my provisional license.
Provisional license. So yeah, provisional. So that obviously, yeah, they do expect you to blow 0.00. It's very strict law, I know. And so you said, were you driving the next evening?
Yes.
So if I just clarify, for myself and Nick, so you had drank the previous night, and then the next day, it was the evening of that next day that you were driving. Okay. And how much had you been drinking the night before?
I can't remember. It was
Okay. That's I understand it's an uncomfortable subject for you. I would honestly be surprised if you had blown over, if you hadn't drank too much and it was the night before and then it was the night after that you had been driving. All we're trying to do here, Jesse, is try and think of any other potential offences that you might have received that you might have to disclose when you make an application for admission into the legal profession.
Yeah. Just backtracking a little bit, Jesse. Would you say that obviously you're in a very stressful and upset state at the moment after the passing of your mother? Would you say that your academic misconduct and you taking the notes in was potentially linked to the fact that you were so stressed out and upset about your mum passing away and what's happened with this criminal offence?
Yeah, I couldn't deal with it really well afterwards. I wasn't taking care of. I didn't feel prepared for the exam. Also, wasn't taking care of my health properly either. So.
Yeah.
And in what way were you not taking care of your health, Jesse?
I didn't sleep very much after the accident.
And had you sorry Jesse, I didn't mean to cut you off, but did you approach anyone for an extension for the exam or anything like that? No, you didn't?
Okay. Did you had you had any prior contact with Professor Griffith or sorry, the name of your lecturer? The counsellor Craig Williamson. Had you had any sort of previous contact at all with those people?
Okay. So we have the academic misconduct charge and also the driving dangerously offence. Now, those are probably going to be the two biggest issues in terms of applying for admission. And did you have any further questions, Nick? Or
not specifically, Jesse. I just wanted to re-stress that obviously everything we speak to you about is confidential. So if there's anything that you've sort of been leaving out or felt uncomfortable about telling us, just sort of before we move on to the legal bus, just really wanted, if there is anything you're not telling us, basically that we are here for you and that we're on your side, and we'd love to see you get admitted. It's the legal profession is a great thing to be a part of, and so if there is anything else, please just let us know so we can help you out.
Yeah. There was another thing. I was also diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia in 2012.
And how has that affected you? Sorry, Jesse. I'm not too aware of that. Aware of the sort of effects, symptoms.
Some of the symptoms I get angry and I get anxiety and memory
would you say that have you felt like that affects your like academic performance?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah?
Yeah. Especially I just was so anxious after the accident and I was so worried that I would fail my exam.
Yeah. And we'd really love to move on to some legal advice for you soon, but one last question I have, and then if you have
Sure,
are you taking medication for that at all?
Not since the accident.
Not since the accident? If you don't mind me asking, again, everything's confidential, should you be taking medication? Have you been prescribed medication by a doctor?
Yes.
Okay. So, I think at this point in time, what we like to do, Jesse, is based on what you've told us, just give you some advice, which we think is prudent in terms of your concerns about getting admission to the legal profession. Now, I can actually give you a copy of this at the end of the interview if you like, but I have a copy of the disclosure guidelines that like the law admissions that's relevant for admission into the legal profession. Now, academic misconduct is relevant, and I think we have some good news for you there, because I definitely think that, first of all, if it occurred 2 weeks ago, that definitely falls within the time period that you can appeal that decision. So definitely, and as solicitors, we're able to legally represent you in an appeal like that. So what we'd like to do from that is maybe have a look at the emails that were exchanged between you and Craig Williamson in order to see whether or not there might be any grounds for, like an unreasonable use of his discretion, or procedural fairness wasn't adhered to because maybe they should have given you counselling instead.
Yeah, and just on that note, because you do seem stressed out about the sort of treatment you've been given by Craig Williamson and Professor Griffith, we will be looking into sort of any possible avenues for sort of investigating their conduct as well, if you think that they have been sort of mistreating you in an unfair way. So we'll be sure to look into that as well, Jesse.
Yeah, and even if you were to appeal a decision and you weren't successful, the good news there as well is, in terms of admission to the legal profession, as long as you are honest and you disclose the fact that you were charged with academic misconduct, assuming that you don't have an instance like this again, the court, even though they've said that that's something that they will consider, and they're a little reluctant to admit people with long records of academic misconduct, there's only been one recent case where the Court of Appeal actually said, no, you can't get admission, and that was, I would say, far more egregious in terms of the conduct that had happened there.
Yeah, I mean, Michael and I even know some solicitors that we work with who are very successful and very prominent in the legal profession, who were, while in university, charged with forms of academic misconduct.
Yep.
So just from the outset, we want you to know that there are avenues available to you, and that this isn't going to be too detrimental, so that you won't be able to be admitted.
So basically, when you are being admitted to the legal profession, the test that they're going to look at is they want to know that you are going to be of good fame and character, basically, is what they're looking at. And all that means, the most important thing there is that you are honest. So as long as you're honest about that academic misconduct charge, I really don't think that would be a reason that you wouldn't be able to seek admission. Now, in terms of the criminal offence, driving dangerously, I understand that's again, very sorry for your loss. That was a tragic accident. That would fall within a more serious criminal offence, but and we're going to have to do a bit more research on this topic. But I am also thinking that as long as we are honest about that, and it would be really good for us at some point if you could give us a written statement. Sorry, not written statement from you, but we'd want to look at the police report about the accident just to get a bit more information, since you can't remember as much. Do you have anything on that, Nick?
Oh, well, just basically with what Michael was saying, as well as the criminal offence, that might actually, in terms of the academic misconduct, work as somewhat of a mitigating factor. Obviously, you mentioned as well that you had been diagnosed with that illness a few years ago, and the accident and the passing of your mother. It sort of all adds up to sort of mitigating factors that, you're in a very stressful position, basically, Jesse. And I think the court and the Chief Justice said that the court is willing to take into into account the context when considering those sort of allegations. And obviously your situation is quite different to most other people. And with what Michael was saying about the one case, the girl's name is Laveri, she in fact denied the academic misconduct until the very, very last chance for her to be admitted, and the court did not look favourably upon that. So as long as you're honest and upfront about the situation you're in.
Yeah, so first of all, definitely I think we should look into appealing that decision of academic misconduct. Second of all, even down the track, if that wasn't successful, as long as we disclose that, you're honest about it, shouldn't be an issue. And also that criminal offence, driving dangerously, is definitely going to fall within the category of criminal offences where you need to disclose that. And in terms of the paranoid schizophrenia that you were diagnosed with in 2012, that will also fall within an obligation to disclose about your capacity to essentially exercise the duties of a legal, for someone who works in the legal profession. So you would have to disclose that diagnosis as well. And if you don't want, to do that in a public place or something, we can also make sure that that's a separate statutory declaration kind of thing, which all that means is that it is a separate private matter. So I think, and Nick and I will have to do a bit more research on this. I'm not sure what the consequences are of being diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia and being admitted into the legal profession. I think certainly that we're going to have to look into whether you need to start taking prescribed medication as well. But I think that there certainly could be an argument made that if you are receiving medication for it, then it's not necessarily going to be a reason that you can't be admitted as a solicitor.
Certainly not. And we should just add, just before we wrap up this interview, that given the fact that you are young as well, Jesse, that's also taken into account when considering whether you should be admitted for sort of events of the past. Considering that the academic misconduct was your first offence, you have no prior history, that's all going to be taken into account, and it's very contextual.
Yep.
So yeah, basically, before we wrap up, you don't have a copy of the written notice, do you, that sets out the allegations made against you and the penalty and anything like that?
I have some documents from the police at home, but I don't know exactly what they are.
Okay. Well, if you wouldn't mind, just for so we can look into this further, would you mind sending those through to us so that we can get a copy and really look into those in more depth? That'd be fantastic.
We'll give you our contact details, and then you'll be able to get in contact with us. So going forward from here, definitely I think we're going to want to look into potentially appealing the academic misconduct charge. We'll do some more research in terms of the effect your diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia might have on your admission, and you are entitled to legal representation if you appeal an academic misconduct charge. So we'll give you some time to think about whether you would like to engage us as solicitors. So if you just want to take that written client agreement for us, and feel free to go over that over the weekend. We'll give you a couple of days to go over it, and we'll be in touch in a couple of days to see how you're going with it. And what we would like from you is, for the next meeting, a copy of the emails that you exchanged with Craig Williamson would be great. Any medical records of the diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia would be great. And we'll also look into getting some kind of police report in terms of that offence for driving dangerously that you were charged with. And unless you have any further questions, Jesse, I think, all right, brilliant. Well, yeah, so please feel free to go over that. And if you actually wanted me to give you this copy of the disclosure guidelines, if you're interested in having a look at that. Yeah, so I've done a little highlighting there, but that's just what I thought were the important bits. So please feel free to go over that in your own time.
Also, just Jesse, before we leave, these are our contact details if you want to get into contact at all.
Yeah, so that's next.
That's and obviously, if you ever want to sort of contact our secretary Lucy as well, she's always available and she'll pass on any messages to us. So yeah, thank you for your time today, and we're sorry about your loss and hope you start feeling a little better about misconduct.
Thank you.
That's all right. We'll see you soon. Thanks, Lucy. Sounds like in terms of her concern about, seeking admission for legal practice, she's got a few things to be that we might be like a cause for concern there.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are a few areas we'll definitely have to look into it more and get some copies of definitely need copies of the emails exchanged between her and the counsellor, Mr. Williamson, for starters.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, I also think we need the copy of the written notice that was given to her by the dean of the school, Professor Griffith, because that's going to outline, everything we need to know about the charge itself. Like what the penalty was, how severe it was, what level it was charged against, and that's all going to influence whether or not she can in fact be admitted and how sort of easy that process will be.
Yeah. And also in terms of what grounds she might have for appeal. Obviously, we've looked at maybe there was they didn't adhere to procedural fairness,
procedural issues,
but it could even just be a matter of if there were no grounds. If we have a look at those emails and it doesn't seem like there's anything particularly strange about the emails, might be able to argue that the punishment was too severe in light of the circumstances, considering it's her first offence, her age, and especially considering that unfortunate accident she had a couple months ago.
I do remember reading up in one of the cases. They said that they don't take into account whether the student was stressed out. And I think it actually worked the opposite way in that case, because they said the student was stressed out and resorted to cheating. And so in the legal profession, we're expected to always be honest. If you're stressed out, you shouldn't be going down that path just because you are. So, I mean, that is concerning, but at the same time, I think the circumstances here are quite different.
They're pretty severe. They're pretty exceptional. And I mean, going on to that, driving dangerously, causing death is a pretty serious offence. So I think we really are going to want to look into the specific circumstances surrounding that offence. It'd be really good to get the QP9, see the police's version of events.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was such a touchy subject. I didn't want to, pry too much about the specific circumstances in which her mother passed away like that.
I wonder what she was actually doing that was dangerous. She said it was dangerous driving, but whether she was speeding or what it was exactly that was going on.
Just generally driving recklessly or something.
I will also need a copy of the medical records for her mental illness. Being lawyers, I assume you don't know much about that either, but definitely some medical records, and maybe like a bit of an opinion from a medical practitioner would be good in that area to see exactly how the illness affects her and what sort of symptoms of that are.
That could be, in my view, that it's potentially that's the biggest problem area, I think, because obviously they're looking for at the time that they're going to be a person who is of good fame and character. So even that quite serious criminal offence can arguably not be set aside, but if she's honest about it and discloses it, and the same with the academic misconduct record, since that's in the past, she was very young, that is potentially not going to be a bar from her being admitted, but being diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, it's pretty severe.
I'm wondering if there is sort of some limits on that.